comma can be used as a pause, or not. Don't wait. Don't wait. It can make your money disappear. 2340. 234. It can make you leave something or someone. I will not follow my friends. I will not follow my friends. A comma can accuse the wrong person. This one judge is corrupt. This one judge is corrupt. It can reveal a lie. You can't tell us the truth. You can't tell us the truth. A comma can change everything. No more freedom. No, more freedom.
The comma is a punctuation mark used especially as a mark of separation within the sentence. Most people believe they use a comma whenever you pause or take a breath. This is false and bad comma strategies. Now why, you may ask?
25 30 now 5 I'm 35 40 to $40 35
Well, if that rule were true, this man would never use commas. To use a comma or not to use a comma? A compound sentence is a sentence that is made up of two simple sentences. So right now down here I have Maria plays the guitar, and then I have another sentence that is Cody plays the drums. So a lot of times in writing I'm going to want to join these two sentences together so it doesn't sound quite so choppy. And in order to join the two sentences together, the rule is you need a comma and a conjunction. So there's a rule, okay? Remember, be very deliberate in what you do. So to join our two sentences together, we need our comma, which is there, and then this is our conjunction, and. Here are the main uses of the comma.
So, first rule, use a comma after certain introductory elements. It could be an interjection that doesn't take an exclamation point, or words like well and yes and no. So here are two examples. Thanks, I appreciate a good vampire book, or no, you may not eat 20 cookies for dinner. Pretty straightforward, that one. The next one is you use a comma after a series of introductory prepositional phrases. You do not need to put a comma after a single prep phrase, but when you have a series, such as over the river, through the woods, then you put a comma, or in the middle of his song, comma. That way, you are signaling to us that the main part of the sentence is about to begin. Introductory participial phrases. You use a comma after one of these, but what is it? Okay, so it's a phrase that begins with a participle. And a participle is a form of the verb, but it's used as an adjective. Basically, it's a word ending in ing, ed, or en, and it functions as an adjective. Here are two examples. Running late, she hurried to sign in. Running late here is describing she, the she who is running late. Frozen, I ordered hot chocolate. Again, these you can see, logically, they kind of need to be set off because the comma signals we're moving on to the main part of the sentence. An intro adverb clause. Use a comma after introductory adverb clause. So what are those? Well, a clause has a subject and a verb, and an adverb clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, such as after, although, because, before, if, when, whether. When Edward Cullen smiles, comma, Bella sighs. Although she read Twilight, she prefers the Harry Potter books. All right? Now, the next two rules have to do with series or lists, things that come in a row. Items in a series, or two or more adjectives preceding a noun. The series, items in a series, serial comma. Okay, that's what's called, or the Oxford comma. You use commas to separate items in a series. I like cookies, cake, and pie. This comma here is the serial comma. It's the one that we use. If you write for the Washington Post, they don't always use it. France, comma, Brazil, you can see the commas here. They've all won the World Cup in soccer more than once. We use the serial comma to avoid confusion. Look at the sentences below. I dedicate this book to my sisters, Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez. Without a serial comma here, it looks like I am related to these two singers, which makes no sense. So I need the serial comma to make clear my intentions in the sentence. The other thing, sort of series, if you will, kind of rule, has to do with adjectives. If you use a comma to separate two more adjectives preceding a noun. She bought a pink frilly dress for the dance. Using commas properly makes for proper, clear writing. There's an exception. Sometimes there are adjectives before the noun and they don't need a comma. And kind of a rule of thumb is if you can't switch the order. You could say a frilly pink dress or pink frilly dress, but you really can't say the brick red house, that sounds silly, or the leather green shoes. What you want, in those cases, because the adjective next to right next to the noun is so closely aligned with it, you don't need a comma. The next rule is the coordinating conjunction fanboys rule. And this is when you have compound sentences, that is two independent clauses that are joined by a fanboys conjunction. So the fanboys are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And when you are joining two independent clauses using a fanboys conjunction, you need a comma. All right, so right here, you need Mary wanted to read Twilight, that can stand alone. She had to study for a big test, that stands alone. Here's the comma and the conjunction. Same here. We have a fanboy here, and we have the comma. And I always tell kids, if you want to know if you really need the comma there, put your thumb on the fanboys and ask, do I have a sentence before and a sentence after? If they can both stand alone, then add the comma. The last group are the interrupters. They are groups of words that interrupt the flow of the sentence, and you set them off with a pair of commas. Think of that as kind of like the same way that you would set something. You'd use parentheses. You need a beginning and a closing parentheses. All right, there are three types: the appositives, the non-essential adjective clauses, and the non-essential participial phrases. So appositives, set off commas, use commas to set off appositives and appositive phrases. What's an appositive? Well, it's a word with or without modifiers set beside a noun or pronoun that identifies or explains it. I think of it as like a giant noun phrase. All right, and an appositive phrase is that sort of noun word and some other words working with it. Let's look at them because they're much easier to understand when you see the example. So you have Miss Treadwell, comma, the athletic director, comma, is really tired of the rain. This is adding more information about Miss Treadwell. It's identifying her, and this is the noun, this is the appositive, and these are sort of the words working with the noun, which is the appositive. Okay, so you see, it's like a giant noun phrase. It's adding information. It's not describing her, it's adding information. Her brother's room, a world-class mess, smells of old sneakers. Again, here's my appositive. It kind of interrupts, and I put commas around it. The non-essential adjective clauses. Use commas to set off a non-essential adjective clause. An adjective clause has a subject and a verb, and it begins with one of these relative pronouns. Right now, let me just tell you, if you have an adjective clause beginning with that, it is essential. It doesn't use commas. But for the others, you use a comma for a non-essential adjective clause if you have the clause and it just adds something extra, but you don't need it. Edward, comma, who is a vampire, comma, has the hots, or is that the cold, for Bella. Or, I thought that Bella, comma, who's supposedly the heroine, comma, should not be so wimpy. I can take out those clauses. Edward has the hots for Bella. I thought Bella should not be so wimpy. I just added a little information. The exception is essential adjective clauses. The girl who won American Idol earned $100,000. We need who won American Idol. We can't just say the girl won $100,000 because which girl? We really do need to know. So that's an essential adjective clause. But for non-essentials, things you can take out and it doesn't affect the meaning, use commas. And finally, interrupters, a participial phrase. You use commas to set off a non-essential participial phrase. To review from the beginning, a participial phrase begins with a participle that is an ing, ed, or en word and functions as an adjective. The night sky lit up with lightning and thunder, waking everyone up. Here's the participial phrase. You see the ing. I put a comma here and a period in this case. I don't need an end comma. The period functions as the closing of that. And finally, our last example, Osman, smiling widely, said, "Go away." Here's the thing that's interrupting. And so we set it off with commas.